Hi everybody, Michelle McClunan, astrologer and life coach, and I'm bringing you the last astrology forecast for the year on my side. This one's going to be about the full moon, the solstice. There's quite a lot happening before the end of the year. So I just want to chat to you about that so that we can kind of align with the energy and prepare ourselves. So as we end off the year, it's kind of a culminating energy. So whenever the moon is moving towards a full moon, which it's doing now, we're actually moving towards a culmination. And because it's the last full moon of the year, and that the next new moon is only going to be in the beginning of January, it sort of feels like things are coming to a head. They're getting a bit bigger. Full moon always makes things bigger. So I'll go through the different things that I can see and try and just help you to align with and kind of get a sense of what's going on energetically, which is really what astrology is all about. So first of all, we've got the full moon on the 19th of December, depending on where you live in the world, because it's early on in the morning in South Africa. If you live in different areas, you might find that it's on the 18th, but the 18th, 19th, that's when we feel the fullness of this full moon. And it's quite a complex full moon in that it's basically, it's happening in the sign of Gemini, but there's a whole lot of other things that are happening along with it. So the sign of Gemini is the sign, it's related to information, to a lot of information coming at us. In Gemini, it's always opposite the sun in Sagittarius. So it's kind of truth versus information. And obviously, we've been speaking quite a lot about that. There's a lot of misinformation in the world. There's also a lot of kind of mass hypnosis going on many different levels on our planet at the moment. So this full moon is kind of part of the exposing of more of the untruths, if you could put it like that, and the calling on us each to find that sense of truth, that knowingness inside ourselves, so that we can make the best choices for ourselves going forward. And this is going to be a theme that plays out substantially over the next few months and into next year. So on the same day as that full moon, on the 19th, we have the planet Venus stationing before she actually goes into her retrograde journey, which is often quite intense on its own. And Venus is also conjunct, which means that she's right next to the planet Pluto, which is the planet of transformation. So it brings another spin to what we're already feeling in terms of all this overwhelming information and misinformation and confusion that's going on our planet. It asks us to really go to another level of depth. And if you look at Venus, Venus represents the feminine, and Pluto represents the underworld, the shadow, the exposure of anything that's lying in the shadows. So when Venus and Pluto come together, issues around our love life, our partnerships, our relationships, our money, because Venus rules money, so that means the economy as well. And also, most importantly, the way I see it, our values systems. Those are all moving through the sign of Capricorn, which is often about where we've actually created our value systems based on authority, outside authority, what people have told us we should value, what we've always believed that we value. And that is what's shifting. It's a profound shift in value systems. Pluto being the planet of transformation, shifting, transforming, and Venus being values. So you might be feeling that things have intensified somewhat as the moon starts to actually move into its fullness, and the moon is the feminine, combined with this Venus and Pluto coming together. And Venus and Pluto are going to be traveling together for about 3 months, because Venus is going to be going retrograde over Pluto and then coming backwards again. So it's going to be until March, around about there. So it's really the transformation of our value systems, also of our banking systems, very possibly, of our money systems. And it's external transformation and internal transformation. So it's really a time to ask what serves us, what doesn't serve us. We can reflect back to 2 years ago when Venus was traveling through Capricorn, and just see what was going on there and what our value systems were, how our value systems were there and how they might have changed. What is valuable to us now that wasn't then? How have those belief systems and value systems changed? How have our core beliefs about ourselves changed? How has our self-worth changed? Another real word associated with Venus is self-worth. How do we find worth? How do we find our value? Do we find it from outside validation, or do we find it inside? So when we become upset if someone isn't valuing us, we need to look back inside and see, okay, this is a place where I can value myself, love myself more. Venus is the planet of love. So it's a transformation in our value system, and it's also a regaining of our power, of our feminine power. So I see this next few months, which is also lining up with the solstice on the 21st of December. The solstice is when the sun moves into the sign of Capricorn, and in the southern hemisphere we have the longest day. In the northern hemisphere it's the longest night, and it's the start of a new cycle. So the solstice always ushers in a 3-month sort of period. It's like a tuning fork for a 3-month period. And that solstice, the chart for the solstice, is the day of the solstice, Venus goes fully retrograde, and she's still very close to Pluto. So that is setting up a theme for the next few months. And it's the way I see it is that Venus and Pluto together is almost like the divine feminine. It's saying honor the divine feminine within you, whether you're male or female. What is the divine feminine? It's beingness rather than all the doingness. It's inward rather than outward. So it's possibly shifting our value system in a big way from outward to inward. How do I find value? I find it inside. I don't find it from outside. I don't find it from someone else validating me. I find it from myself. How do I find my internal power? I find it inside myself, not from external sources. So this kind of alignment is quite intense because it calls on us to go deeper, to really go deeper into our soul, to release those things that don't work for us, to really do a release, a purge, if you like, of anything that comes up for us that just doesn't ring true. This is about true authenticity. It's giving us a chance on our planet to actually find some balance and to balance the out of balance masculine. That's what this is doing. This is this energy that we've been feeling for a long time, but it's actually coming to a culmination. And, where we can actually draw wisdom from inside us. And that wisdom will often come from a place of vulnerability. We often see vulnerability as weakness. It's not. Vulnerability is our strength. So to allow ourselves to feel the feelings that are coming up right now, because they're quite powerful. Pluto is aligned with words like power. Venus is how we feel. It's aligned with how we feel because it's a feminine planet, and because it rules the feminine. It rules love. It actually asks us to go inside to find that source of power, that source of love. So those are kind of differing themes around this full moon. There's also, this full moon is, because it's in Gemini, the ruler of the full moon is Mercury, the planet of communication, which obviously I've spoken about the communications coming at us from all directions, what's true, what's not true, much confusion. Where do we find the truth? We find it inside. At the full moon, Mercury is in a square aspect, which means it's a 90 degree, it's kind of a conflicting energy with Chiron, the wounded healer. So we could find that more information comes out about healing. We could find that we find healing in some way in our thoughts, in our belief systems, but we've got to hold an open space. So whatever we feel that we're positive on, we've got to let go of and say, okay, I'm open to new information, whichever side of the fence that I happen to be on. I'm open. I'm going to keep an open mind, and I'm going to keep an open heart. So there's a healing available as well, but it's not an easy process. This is a little bit like a birth, which I want to talk about a little bit more a bit later. The next thing that's also sort of coming into formation is the alignment between Saturn and Uranus, which has been around all year. So it was February, June, and the final one will be the 24th of December. And that theme still carries on next year, but this is the final hit, which means basically that the two come together at the very same degree at the same minute. And then what happens is they part a little bit, but they're still traveling together. And it's this theme of the old versus the new, control versus liberation, authority versus rebellion, constriction versus freedom. I mean, we've seen it. We can see it in Technicolor all over the world, depending on where you're looking. But there's a lot of rebellion going on in the world, and there's a lot of restriction. So it's part of this shift. But I think that it might sort of get a bit more sticky and a bit more heated and a bit bigger as the month progresses, because the square is coming together. So I think we'll see a lot more restriction, and we might see a lot of people fighting back against that restriction. So we can expect that. It's pretty much sure that that is going to happen. It's unpredictable because Uranus, whenever Uranus is involved in anything, it's unpredictable. We don't really know what's going to happen. But there is probably going to be a tendency to try and get more control, more restriction, and that we need to find our sense of being, our sense of stability away from all of that drama. So we've got to be positioning ourselves in the position of the witness, in the position of the observer, to actually look at this all, watch it play out, but not get too involved. Continue to do the things that inspire us, that bring us beauty, that ignite our creativity, our soulful side. It's so important right now. It really is, because that's the balance point, without doubt. If you look at the chart for the solstice, which, as I said, forms kind of the chart for the next 3 months, it gives us a theme. We've got the sun coming into Capricorn, and at the same time, on that day, the moon will be in Cancer, which gives us a clue. It says, where do we find relief from all this Capricorn energy, which can really be about control, about restriction, about responsibility. It can also be things coming up which make us feel guilty about not doing what we're supposed to do, or should we be doing that because everybody's expecting you to do that. And the moon in Cancer says, come home. Come home to who you really are. Come home to your inner knowing, and spend time in that inner home, whatever that is for you. If that's spending time in nature, if that's meditating, if it's making music, if it's just having cozy, nurturing time with yourself or your loved ones, that's coming home. That's the sort of release point to all this very extreme. There's a lot of Capricorn energy in the next month coming up. So there's nothing wrong with Capricorn, but it's just very intensified right now. And because of all these squares, the energy feels quite limiting and quite controlling. So the sort of escape point, if you like, or the release point of that is Cancer. And Cancer is this holding, nurturing energy, this mothering energy. How can we mother ourselves more? So I think this is really setting the scene for the next year. And I think the next year is going to be very interesting. We've got some beautiful things happening. We've got Jupiter moving into Pisces, which is an expansion of spirituality. We've got Jupiter moving into an alignment with Neptune, which could be some kind of a spiritual awakening. Although we're in it already, it could be something quite mystical. We don't know what that looks like. It's a mystery, but it could be that. And it almost feels that we are preparing for the potential of a very big turnaround, a very big shift, almost like a flip. It's like we're preparing for that. And I see it as quite possible that there's going to be a major shift. There'll be something quite big happening. And we're sort of at the tipping point now. And we're moving, I think we've got to remember that we're moving out of a very, very long age. We're moving out of the age of Pisces, which is 2,000 odd years. It's not easy to clarify the exact date of an age because it's a very big movement. But we're moving out of Pisces, which is duality, the age of Pisces, into the age of Aquarius, which is about oneness, it's about unity, it's about higher dimensions. It's about moving into our awareness that we're multi-dimensional beings. And it's going to be about finding our sovereignty, finding our multi-dimensionality without getting caught up in the technocracy of it all. So without, using technology but not becoming robots. So that's going to be part of our growth and our entry into the new. And I think it's really important for us to really hold a vision for what we want, as opposed to rehashing the past and looking at all these horrible, horrendous things all day long that are happening on our planet, being aware of them, but really shifting into what is the vision that we hold for ourselves. What is our value system? How do we want to show up in the world? How do we want to shine our light in the world? How do we want to shine our unique light in the world? And focusing more on that than on the past, than on anything we've done wrong in the past, than the so-called mistakes of the past, whether it's personally or collectively. If we can focus on together holding a vision for the new, then we're actually feeding that into the field. So that's what I see for the next few weeks, and also for the next few months in a way, because this is setting the scene for the next few months. It's going to be a very interesting year. And I think that this is a time where we have to come back to our anchor. We have to keep returning to that inner place. As soon as you feel yourself spinning out, and you might feel that in the next few months, it's a big shift in consciousness, and a lot of people are feeling it physically. They're feeling very tired. Many people are feeling very kind of ignited, very highly emotive, maybe irritable, maybe dizzy. Many people are getting headaches. Some people are feeling absolutely amazing, which is great because they can hold the energy for those people that aren't feeling that. So it's to be compassionate with ourselves, with others, knowing that we're all doing the best we can, making the best decisions that we can. We can't convince anybody else of the truth. Everybody's got to find their own truth. And it's just for us to hold our own center, our own truth, our own light, our own sovereignty, as we transit through these incredible times. I mean, they're really big times. And it's that anchor, it's that inner coming back to that over and over, as many times as we need to. So that's it from me for the year. I wish you a beautiful Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, a lovely festive season, hopefully with your family. Nourish each other, nurture each other, make the most of each moment, because that's all we've ever got. And I will see you in the new year. We've got another Journey to Freedom course starting on the 27th of January. We really, really encourage you to join us. It's life-changing. We've been told by many people, most people that have done the course. And so we invite you to join us. It's on journeysofawakening.com, and the link's below. And we'll be doing our last satsang of the year also this Sunday. And that'll be a full moon satsang. So join us for that. We'll do a full moon meditation, and it'll be available on our Facebook page, which is Journeys of Awakening. The link's below this as well. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe, and I'll be available for readings from sort of second week in January. So let me know now if you want a session, because I'm already getting a bit booked up. Lots of love. I honor you all. I thank you for listening to me over the last, however long you've been listening. And I wish you love.